Welcome to Intentional Divorce Insights. I'm Leah Hadley, certified divorce financial analyst, accredited financial counselor, and the founder of Intentional Divorce Solutions. I'll be your guide through the complexities of divorce, finance, and emotional wellness. Join me as we uncover practical tips and empowering insights to help you navigate your divorce with clarity and intention. Hi, and welcome back to Intentional Divorce Insights. We are so happy that you are here today. We have a great topic today. I'm really looking forward to getting to know Laurie James. Laurie is a mother, a divorcee, recovering caregiver turned author, somatic relationship coach, and podcaster. Laurie's podcast, Confessions of a Freebird, was inspired by her youngest of 4 children leaving the nest and is the sequel to her book, Sandwiched, a memoir of holding on and letting go. Now, Laurie helps women divorce, heal, and date differently in midlife. She blends her coaching and somatic training to help her clients develop a better relationship with their bodies and nervous system. Doing so allows them to find the inner freedom to experience more happiness, joy, and create the life they desire. Welcome, Laurie. Thanks for being here with us.
Yes, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, my pleasure.
Can you come onto my podcast and share that every
I would be happy to. So, Laurie, tell us a little bit about your story, your background, and how you got into the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So, I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 plus years. I stayed home to raise my 4 beautiful children. Feel very, very fortunate that I had the pleasure of doing that. Real quick, as you shared, during this 8-year period of time in my life when I was writing that I write about in my book, my world really turned upside down and I was really trying to make sense of it. So my book is it's about the sandwich generation. It's about parenting. It's about family. It's about my adoption because I'm also adopted. But really, it's my introspective journey through a very difficult time in my life and how I made sense of what was happening and how I went from feeling alone most of my life to finding belonging. And spoiler alert, 2 spoiler alerts, who do we belong to? We really belong to ourselves. And so often along our path through our childhood, through our marriages, especially as women, we're always we're the nurturers. So we try to please other people and we become people pleasers. And like some of your listeners, I lost myself along that way. In fact, I may have not really found myself until my late 40s and 50s, and I'm still discovering myself to today. And just to fast forward to how I found somatic. So for the last 15 years, I've practiced yoga. I've taken energy classes. I've done a lot of energy work. Through this 8-year period of time in my life, I explored a lot of spirituality, which are all super, super helpful. I, meditated, did all these wonderful things that helped. But when I left my marriage, that's the second spoiler alert, is I fell very ill. And to the point where I was in the hospital twice within 2 weeks, and the doctors could not figure out what was wrong with me. And I'm a healthy individual. I don't take medications. I'm very active. I eat well. I exercise. I love nature. So I take good care of myself. But what I learned through that process was I said yes to too much, right? And I'll get into the definition of somatic experiencing and the definition, but what I want to say right now is, so the definition of trauma, which somatic experiencing is about nervous system regulation, but it's also about healing past trauma that is stored in the body. The simple definition of trauma is anything too much too soon, too much too fast, too much for too long, or too little for too long. So that really covers the gamut. So when I share that, it's because I took on too much too soon after I left my marriage. Now, first,
Okay.
I want to say divorce is the second most stressful and dysregulating thing that we can do to our nervous system and to our bodies. Then I moved out. So then I moved. So, and that's in the top 5 or 10 most stressful things you can do is to move, right? Then I was writing my book. I started coaching. I started dating. I was saying yes to my friends. And even 2 weeks before I fell very ill, I was walking with a couple of friends and I said, everything is really good, but I'm stressed. I could feel it. And I didn't know how to back out of it. I didn't know how to stop, but my body did. And my body shut down. And I left the hospital the first time with a walker.
Yeah.
My blood pressure was low, severely anemic. I I looked like I had put on 20 pounds because I was carrying water weight. I had severe pain in my joints and my lower back. I mean, it was bad. And they were also giving me a lot of medication because I was in pain, but then they were chasing my symptoms
Mm.
as well. And that is hard on your body too, because my body's not used to taking medication because I haven't needed to. And now all of a sudden they're pumping all these drugs into my body. My body's going, what the hell's going on? Right. And I'm not saying that drugs don't have their place because I think that they do, but it was too much for my system. So fast forward, I ended up back in the hospital again. I lost 14 pounds. I couldn't keep food down. They
Yeah.
finally diagnosed me with an unnamed virus and what they called migrating arthritis because I had these hot patches that were moving around my body.
Mm.
And what I believe now, based off of my training, is that was stuck energy from a lot of trauma from my childhood, a very difficult marriage, and the last 5.5 to 7 years were probably 8 years of my marriage were very, very difficult. 5.5 years of talk therapy. One of my therapist friends said, you need to go see Bob. I'm like, okay. And I'd heard about Bob. He's a therapist, but he was also a somatic experiencing practitioner. And I have to tell you, the healing that I was able to do in the first year of working with him was life changing because I I healed more in that year than I did 5.5 years of talk therapy.
Oh, that's
Now, granted,
amazing.
I had left my marriage, and so what I want to just share with your listeners is, so somatic experiencing, people like, what is that? That sounds so woo woo.
Right.
And what I want to say is, I want to simplify it for you and for your listeners. So somatic comes from the Greek word soma, which means body. So what we do in somatic experiencing, and Peter Levine is the guy who created somatic experiencing. He's written several books. He's in his 80s. He's been studying this for over 80 years. I'm sorry, over 45, 50 years. It's all neurological. I mean, it's biological and neurological. So it's talking about the physiology of the body. And so basically what I want to say is somatic experiencing is body experiencing. We're experiencing what's happening in the body. So for instance, for your listeners, if you're going through a divorce, as I said at the beginning, your body is very dysregulated, which means that your body is more in a sympathetic state, which is fight, flight. This is where fear shows up. This is where worry shows up. And that is normal because there's a lot of uncertainty that's happening. But when we stay there in a chronic state, it can have a it can have physical ailments to it. So what happens is that unease, that restriction in your chest, the tightness in your shoulders, the tense muscles, that unease eventually turns into dis-ease in the body, pain, joints, and can eventually turn into disease, I should say. And because our immune system, it affects our immune system.
Hmm.
And over time, so I mean, I love this work, but and people are afraid of it, but it's actually not as scary as one might think.
So, how is it different from like talk therapy or mindset coaching? Kind of like
Yeah, that's
what
a
makes it
really
unique?
great question. So, what I want to say is so somatic experiencing and body-based healing is really having more of a moment right now, and that's because the research is showing that body-based therapies, the bottom-up approach type therapies, are more effective than mindset and uh, mindset coaching and talk therapy. Why is that? Is because 80% of our sensory information travels from our body to our brain, right? So our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system is what we call afferent. So the senses travel up to the brain, and then we make a thought about it of that's scary, or I don't want to do that, or I can't believe, or whatever our belief system is, or whatever we think about the situation in the moment. And then our mind, our brain reinforces that thought because our nervous system was created very, very effectively to keep us safe, which is why we're all alive today, right? But a tiger is not chasing us right now.
Right.
Yes, the divorce is scary. Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty. Yes, you have your kids you might be worrying about. You might have your finances. Where am I going to live? All of that is scary. But the more that we can learn to bring our nervous system down out of that chronic state, sympathetic state, and into more of a parasympathetic state, rest and digest. And for those who are watching, we want to, it's like riding a roller coaster, right? We want our nervous system to go up into a sympathetic state so that way we can activate and do the work that we need to do, either going to work or taking care of our kids or working to come to an agreement about our divorce. But we need to learn to also down regulate our nervous system into a parasympathetic state of rest and digest. That's how our nervous system is meant. But our society and um, our society rewards us to stay in a chronic state of dysregulation up in our sympathetic nervous system.
Hmm. That's really interesting. I'm curious, what does a healthy nervous system look like?
That is a really good question. So, when I work with clients, and whether I'm offering a workshop or one-on-one, what I, what I, the goal is to work towards relaxed alertness.
Hmm.
Right. So that's where your body's relaxed, but you are alert, not hyper vigilant, where you're constantly scanning, because we do have a part of our nervous system, and it's at the brain stem, that is chronically scanning for, is this dangerous? Is this life threatening? Or is this safe? So we're constantly scanning for that. But when we are dysregulated, we think that everything is a threat,
Right.
and then our thoughts, as I said earlier, then reinforce that, and then we stay there. Does that make
Interesting.
sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's, it's something that I work with people on quite a bit, not in the kind of work that you do, but we can't make good financial decisions when we are in that state, right? When we
Yeah.
have so many different things happening in our mind. And so creating that space for clear thinking is
Yeah.
so critical to the work that we do. I'm curious a little bit about, how do you start working with somebody? What does that relationship look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So, when I'm first working with somebody, what I try to do is so many people are cut off from their bodies. There's
Right.
some people that can't even really feel sensations in the body, because most of us have been taught to live from the neck up. And a lot of us have been parented that way too. Oh, you're too sensitive, or, you're making a big deal out of this. And why are you emotional about this? And maybe even our ex spouses or soon to be ex spouses also did that. I mean, I know that, when you're gaslighted, I mean, that happens a lot. And then you start second guessing yourself. So the idea is to build a relationship with your body. And one of the ways I do that is I have my clients track their nervous system and have them just check in with their bodies and their sensations a couple of times a day, even if it's just once a day for 2 minutes, checking in. And the free guide that I have that will be in the show notes that that we talked about, before we hit record, there's what I call a sensation. They're little bubbles, sensation bubbles, because the language of the nervous system is sensations. So as soon as, and that's not always easy for somebody to connect with, but so the two things I try and do is, one, have my clients bring awareness to what's happening in their bodies when different things happen throughout the day. When they get that email from your ex's or soon to be ex's lawyer, and what's that going to do? It triggers you. And instead of trying to move away from that trigger, from that restriction, which our nervous system says that's dangerous, I need to fight or I need to flee, or sometimes we freeze, can I just notice those sensations? Can I be with them? Because when we can stay with the sensations we're experiencing, 99% of the time, they will slowly dissipate. And what that is doing is that is completing that fight, flight, or freeze response that email sent you into. Because what trauma isn't what has happened to you, it's what stays stuck in the nervous system. So the whole goal of somatic experiencing the body, is learning to complete that fight, flight, or freeze response that we as humans have not been taught to. But if you look at the animals in the wild, they know how to do that. How do
Mm.
they do that? They shake, they freeze, they play dead to their prey until the prey goes away. They get up, they orient to their space, they shake off the energy, and then they take off, right? Or they fight until they can get away.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm still going back to what you said about trauma isn't what happened to you, but kind of what has stayed in your body, because I've never thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
And that also, I think, helps me to understand better how there are things that happen and you're like an email, right? That
Yeah.
maybe if I think back, I'm not going to think of an email I got 10 years ago. It's just not going to happen. Like, I just don't know. Right. But I do remember feelings that happened, in the workplace or, different things that have happened in my life. And now that I think about it, I'm just curious, like, what has stayed with me, right? That maybe,
Yeah.
and especially, and I could see how that would be useless in talk therapy, because, like, I'm just not going to come up with those things to
Well,
talk about, right?
right. But here's the thing about what you said, and that's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up, because what happens is, so our nervous system and our brains, because they're connected, they use past information to make a decision in the present. So you have a database of information that's happened. So whether it was when you were a child or when you were working in your career early on. And so if what's happening in the present moment is familiar or somewhat similar to something that happened in the past, that didn't get completed, that's still in your nervous system, it's going to react similarly in the moment now. So when you talked about, even though you might not have remembered what happened, your body remembers. And
Right.
that's what the trigger is. It's taking all that past information. And so let's just take an example of the email, going back to the email. If you have received several unpleasant emails from your ex, or
Sure.
maybe even also in your work environment or from family members, that is going to show up in the present moment when you open that email, and then you just take off and write this nasty response. What I would recommend you do is, Oprah always talks about, sleeping on it and, waiting and not responding to that email. And I would say, yes, don't respond. You want to be more in a calm, centered, grounded place before you respond. Because here's the other thing, our thoughts are directly related to the state our nervous system is in. So when we're in more of a parasympathetic rest and digest state, you're going to say, yes, this is hard. Yes, this is difficult and overwhelming, but I can get through it. When we're in a sympathetic state, this is when you're like, oh my God, I need to get this done now. I don't know, I have to get an answer, and I need it. I need this to be resolved now. Otherwise, I'm not going to be okay. And then we move up into the next state, which is our dorsal vagal. And that's when we say, I want to, but I can't. I need to, but I can't. And then we shut down. That's when we feel numbness. That's when we shut down. That's when we feel hopeless. That's when depression starts setting in. So that's why, the foundation of healing and the foundation of getting through a divorce and getting what you want and you deserve is rooted in regulation, in a regulated nervous system.
Oh, this is so interesting. So, I have to imagine that a lot of our listeners are going through a time in their life where they are feeling very dysregulated. And I'm
Yes.
curious, Lori, if you maybe have some simple tips or strategies you could share with them, how they
Yeah.
may regulate their nervous system as they're going through the
Yeah.
divorce process.
Yeah. So, I'll give you three. So the
Okay.
first one is, which I talked about at the beginning or kind of in the middle of our conversation, is even just in your notes, or you can download my guide or not, or just in your notes, just take a note, just check in with yourself once or twice a day. Like, what am I feeling? Do I feel anything? Do I feel numbness? Can I connect with my body? Do I feel dysregulated? What does dysregulation feel like? It's, the restriction, it's the tightness, and it's, the shortness of breath. It's elevated heart rate. That's dysregulation in the body. Do I feel that? The second thing is to build what I call a self-regulating toolbox. When you're going through a divorce, it is so difficult. And for all you out there that are going through it, I feel you. I went through it. It's not fun. So what I would say is find things, and everybody's different. And again, this is in my free guide, is find things that are regulating for you. So there's two different things. We have self-regulation that we can do, and that might be making sure you get in your walk, get in your exercise, sitting and just watching the the breeze blow through the trees for 2 minutes, right? Going for a walk and using your five senses. What can I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I feel? What am I missing? What do
Taste.
I taste, right? Do I taste something, right? Anytime, because what that is doing is that is signaling to your nervous system, even though all of this crazy ass shit, pardon my French, is going on right now, in this moment, I am safe. Right. And that could be a bubble bath. That could be, everybody is different. And then the third thing is, one of the first things that I do with people I work with is to stabilize their nervous system. Because when we are going through a divorce or we're going through a difficult time, we are very dysregulated. And again, our society rewards us to live in a chronic state, a sympathetic state of go, 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 do, do, do. And, rest when you're dead kind of mentality, right? And your nervous system, that's when burnout happens. That's when overwhelm. And so, stabilize your nervous system, grounding, whether it's meditation or I have an inexpensive nervous system starter kit that's got 3 exercises, anything to stabilize your nervous system. Take a moment, just feel the chair underneath you. Feel where the chair is supporting you in this moment. Feel where your feet are touching the ground. When I do that, I immediately am, because I've been doing this work for a little bit while, I can feel everything dropping down. I'm out of my head and I drop down into my body. And when I can do that, that's when I can down regulate my nervous system into more of a parasympathetic state. And we're in that parasympathetic state. We think more clearly. We're going to make better decisions. We can come from a place of compromise. We can be more curious. And we're going to be able to advocate for ourselves better.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that's so important when you're
Yeah.
going through this process. You have shared some wonderful resources and tools. Laurie, where can people find these things?
Yes. My website is Laurie, Laurie, middle initial E, James.com. You can also find me on Instagram at laurie.james. And my free guide is on my website, and also my nervous system starter kit as well.
Okay, fantastic. We will include all of those resources as well as links to Laurie's book, which I'm actually really looking forward to reading myself. I
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to read
Thank
it.
you.
And when you were talking about it, I was like, maybe we might need to have her come into the Empowered Sisterhood and do a little book club conversation.
Yes, I'd love to.
Yeah, I just think that book is going to resonate a lot with the
Yeah.
folks in our program. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to checking that out, and we will include that link as well. Laurie, again, I really appreciate your time and the tips and wisdom that you've shared with our audience today. I just think it's going to be so valuable for our listeners. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Laurie. It has just been an absolute pleasure to be here with you today, and we will see you next week.
Sounds great.
Thank you for joining me on Intentional Divorce Insights. It's a privilege to share this time with you. I hope each episode offers valuable guidance to navigate your journey. If you find our content helpful, please leave a review to help others discover the benefits of intentional decision-making in divorce. Until next time, take care and continue to embrace your path with intention.